Welcome to Kevin Deal Photography, where I take you on my journey through photography. On today's episode, we're going to be doing an in-depth review of the Cube C microphone system, Kit 2 from Godox. I'm pleased to announce the release of my Capture One and Lightroom presets, Metamorphic Portraits, The Sound of Silver, and Rangefinder. These are all available for purchase at my website. Go to kevindealphotography.com or check out a link in the description below. And now, on to today's episode. Welcome to today's episode. If you're not familiar with Kevin Deal Photography, we do gear reviews, tips, techniques, and tutorials, and sometimes we dive into film. If any of that sounds appealing to you, click the subscribe button below. So if you are a regular to this channel, welcome back. If you're new to this channel, welcome to Kevin Deal Photography. At the beginning of every episode, I ask for donations to BIG, which is an organization that helps intellectually disabled adults adapt to jobs in the real world. I also want to thank all of you who donate to my Super Thanks link. With your donations, I use that money to buy more gear, and then I do reviews to hopefully help all of you with your buying decisions. But to the topic of today's episode, we're going to talk about the Godox Cube C Kit 2, and they do make several kits for this. I'll put links in the description below. They make a version of this where you can have like one microphone and so on and so forth. Usually when I do reviews, I always ask for the nicest kit, and then you can work your way down from there. That way I can show you the possibilities of what you can achieve with their best one, so to speak. And then if you decide that maybe you don't need one feature or another feature, you can save a little bit of money and get the cheaper version. I will say that everything you've heard up to this point, you're actually listening to it right now. So I have my compression and my EQ applied to it, and that'll give you an idea of what it actually sounds like. And one thing I'm already noticing off the bat that I like about this, and I guess that since I have two, I can show you one in the box while you listen to the other, which is that this is the microphone right here, just this tiny little thing. And I think that's pretty awesome. You've got your metal contacts right here for charging. You've got the microphone itself right here. And then you also have your pairing and power button right there. And that's really it. There's not a lot to the microphone aspect of it. Now, to get this guy windproof, so to speak, it goes on top like that. Kind of looks like one of those British guards at Buckingham Palace. And then it charges inside of a case, so it can charge while you transport it and walk around with it, which is pretty cool. The way I intend to use it is when I do interviews, in those rare instances, I have two of them, but I can also have one charging while I'm using the other. We'll go over all the specs, the battery life, and things like that, but I did want to just kind of give you the overview of these guys and show you what they look like. The first test, though, I'm going to read from the Harvard sentences, and if you're not familiar with what the Harvard sentences are, they are sentences that I guess Harvard came up with that sound really good when it comes to speech. So it's a really good test of fidelity. For entertainment value, I'm just going to use AI generated images to illustrate what I'm reading. So let's just do this for fun. The small pup gnawed a hole in the sock. The fish twisted and turned on the bent hook. Pressed the pants and sew a button on a vest. The swan dive was far short of perfect. The beauty of the view stunned the young boy. Now let's do a distance test. All right, so I am roughly 20 feet away from the microphone right now. This thing is rated over 900 feet of transmission distance. And of course, manufacturers inflate specs all the time. I'm gonna try to recreate a more realistic scenario. Chances are, if you're working in a church or you're working at some sort of a conference, you're never gonna be more than 100 feet away from your microphone. However, you are going to run into obstacles, and our bodies are gigantic water bags that interfere with wireless signals. So I want to actually do a test at 10-foot increments. So I'm at about 20 right now. And I'm gonna keep going every 10 feet. I'm gonna talk to you facing the camera and away from the camera. You're gonna see there's a tree there and there's an overhang for a jogging path. And so those obstructions could possibly interfere with this signal. So I'm gonna start at 20 feet. This is what I sound like frontally. This is what I sound like obstructed. Now I'm at about 30 feet frontally and obstructed. Now I'm about 40 feet frontal and obstructed. Now I'm about 50 feet frontal and obstructed. Now I'm at about 60 feet frontal and obstructed, and I'm basically at the tree now, so do be listening for possible interference from the tree. Now I'm at about 70 feet frontal and obstructed. Now I'm at about 80 feet frontal and obstructed, and I am under this jogging path and I am now behind the tree. Now I am at about 90 feet. I'm still under the jogging path. This is frontal and this is obstructed. And finally, I'm gonna get up on here. That puts me right at 100 feet. I'm 100 feet away. This is frontal and this is obstructed. Now, listen, did anything fall off? If not, I would say that's a pretty good performance, because if you're in a place like a church and there's a bunch of bodies there, or maybe you're in a cafeteria, you're in some sort of a keynote interview environment, I would say that at 100 feet, if you heard no dropouts in this scenario where there were obstructions, I would say that this gets a good performance. Now, I'm not gonna do a 900-foot test because I've never in my career had to do lavalier microphones that far, and they're probably, that's probably like what it could give you for a brief second before it drops out. So I don't really look at those as realistic scenarios. What you see right here is gonna better reflect how you'd use the microphone. So it's up to you. Was that good? Was that bad? Tell me about it in the comments below. And let's move on to our next test. Okay, so we're gonna do a noise reduction test. I have it deactivated and I'm under the second most active highway in Austin, so it should sound pretty terrible here. If you just push the button on the side once, it'll activate noise reduction. You'll see it go from green to amber. But one of the things I listen for with noise reduction is sometimes it gives you that underwater effect, because very crucial frequencies in our voice are oftentimes taken out with noise reduction because there's so much chaos going on around me. The active noise filters are, cutting out certain frequencies. So listen to how my intelligibility changes. Is it harder to understand me? If it is, that's usually a sign of pretty not so great noise reduction. Only you can be the judge with your own ears. So I'm using the included iPhone adapter with USB-C. I had to use an adapter for my case. I don't have the noise reduction enabled, so it may be a little noisy. So let me turn the noise reduction on. Give me a second. All right, so now I have the noise reduction turned on. I'm under a really busy highway, and you can listen to how that noise reduction is actively suppressing the noise, but also listen to how it conflicts with my voice. Another thing I have going on right now is that I am using safe mode. So one of my tracks is in the red right now, and one of my tracks is 10 decibels lower than that. So I'll let you hear the two side by side. I'll switch them, I'll put it up on the screen, but this is great to protect you from yourself. If you're a single person talking to the camera, I highly recommend just leaving this device in safe mode. That way, if you have a passage where you're too loud, the second track is recording 10 decibels under. It saves you from yourself. Obviously, you can't use this feature if you're using both microphones and you're doing an interview. So, really cool feature, just wanted to demonstrate how it sounds. One more thing I want to show you. I'm in my cavernous studio and I don't have the noise reduction applied, but I just want you to listen to the fidelity of my voice. Is the room reflective? Yes, it is. But I would rather deal with a reflective room and deal with it in post-production, and then that way I can fine tune my voice, as opposed to the microphone just saying, you know what, I think I'm gonna take these frequencies out, because all of our voices are different. Some of us have higher registers, some of us have lower registers, and so I'm not trusting the microphone's ability to go, oh, I'm gonna take out the right frequencies of noise and reflections in the background and not cut into someone's voice. It's really advanced technology. Like I said, we all have voices. Some people have very low baritone voices. Some people have high-pitched voices. And so I don't trust this microphone's ability to filter out those frequencies correctly. I'd rather use my own ears and do it myself in post-production. So just my own personal opinion, I don't think this file is that hard to work with. Can you understand what I'm saying? Yes. Well, this is a problematic situation. So if you can understand what I'm saying in a problematic situation, then in more ideal conditions, this microphone should be just fine without any noise reduction applied. Now this is what the microphone is doing, and listen to my voice completely drop off. It sounds like I'm underwater. It sounds like I'm in a Zoom call. And so I don't like making that decision at the microphone. If I go back in later and decide I don't like the way it sounds, you can't add frequencies that have been taken away. So definitely something to consider. If you're thinking of applying the noise reduction, you do so with consequences for sure in the fidelity, and there's no way around that once you've made that decision. Okay, for the last test of the day, this Godox Cube C system has to go head-to-head against the Rode Wireless Go 2 if it is going to be seriously considered by many, because many use this Rode. It's kind of an industry standard. Is it the best of the best as far as fidelity? Probably not, but it's really good and I use it on this channel. So I'm very familiar with how it sounds. I'm using both microphones right now. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm just gonna switch back and forth between the Rode Wireless Go 2, which you're listening to right now, and then you can listen to the Godox Cube C. Tell me what you feel, tell me what you think. Now we're gonna switch back over to the Rode Wireless Go 2. Tell me what you feel, tell me what you think. Do you like the way that sounds? Now we're gonna switch back over to the Godox Cube C. Tell me how that sounds. Do you like the fidelity on my voice? Do you like the way it handles speech? That's really all it comes down to. I'll let you know my final thoughts when I talk about the pros and cons of the Godox Cube C. All right, I've had the opportunity to use the Godox Cube C on several projects, and with over 20 years in audio engineering, I feel confident offering a well-informed and honest assessment of this microphone system. Let's start with what I didn't like about the Cube C. The Cube C relies heavily on button presses and LED color codes, single clicks, double clicks, long presses, and each combination triggers a different function. I've never been a fan of memorizing sequences or interpreting blinking versus pulsing, solid lights. Worse, the color coding feels inconsistent. For example, pairing is green, denoise is amber, charging is blue and red on the units, but white on the charging case. It would have made more sense to use a consistent scheme throughout. While I understand that omitting a screen keeps the units compact, I still prefer even a small display on the receiver for better feedback. Visually, the overall design of the color indicators just doesn't feel well thought out. Another concern is the windscreen designs. The included Buckingham Palace Guard windscreens are easy to put on, but I feel like they could slip off just as easily. They do have a dedicated spot in the case where they go, but if you set one down and get distracted, it's something you might forget or lose track of pretty easily. One caveat isn't a direct con against the Godox system, but it's worth pointing out. If you plan to use the phone receiver with a tricked out smartphone case, like I do with my newer rig with my iPhone 16 Pro, you may find that the receiver doesn't quite reach into the USB-C port. That's not Godox's fault, it's a compatibility issue with deep iPhone cases. I solved it by buying cheap USB extenders from Amazon, but anyone investing in this microphone system for content creation on a smartphone should be aware of this potential hurdle. If you encounter this, I'll link you up to the extender I bought on Amazon. in the description below. One functional limitation is also a big, genuine downside of the Cube C. The Cube C doesn't support internal recording. If your wireless signal gets interrupted, that glitch will make it into your final recording. If Godox made a version of the Cube C with redundant internal recording, even if it was like $30 more, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. Now to what I consider the biggest con of this system, which is the built-in noise reduction or denoise feature. While it does remove background noise, it does so at the expense of vocal fidelity. It notches out overlapping frequencies essential for clarity in speech, leaving your voice dull and lacking detail and sounding like a Zoom meeting. Honestly, the denoised audio sounds worse than what your phone's internal microphone can produce, which isn't surprising considering the sophisticated noise cancellation algorithms built into smartphones today. My recommendation is simple. Leave the denoise off, and if needed, clean up your audio in post-production. Learning to use a noise reduction plugin in your audio editing software is far easier than trying to cover audio lost to a poor onboard algorithm. All right, now on to what I really like about this system. Despite being made of plastic, the build quality actually feels really solid and durable. Weighing only 7 grams, the transmitters are light enough that if you drop one, there's not enough mass to cause damage. The casing feels rugged enough to withstand everyday use, and since you're likely only going to keep it either clipped to your shirt or in its dedicated case, I really don't see a situation where you could break this guy. It would take something extreme like running it over with your car to break this transmitter. The sound quality is excellent. I've reviewed other budget systems like the Godox WEC2 kit, and I found them to be pretty lacking in the audio quality department, but I was genuinely impressed with the Cube C. Both the camera and smartphone receivers produce clean, detailed audio. The ADDA converters are solid, and the microphone capsules offer impressive fidelity for their size and price. Compared to the Rode Wireless Go 2, I still think the Rode has a slight edge in the critical speech frequencies, particularly between 1 kHz and 4 kHz. That range is crucial for intelligibility, and the Rode performs a little better there. That said, the Godox Cube has a warmer, more broadcast-style sound with a boost in the lows and low mids. With some EQ, you could make the two sound very similar, especially in capable hands. Where the Cube C really shines is in its size. It's significantly smaller than the Rode Go 2, which makes it more discreet and far less likely to tug on your shirt or look awkward on camera. I also love the magnetic mounting system, which is standard. It gives you far more flexibility in positioning. You can shift it lower on your chest or even out of the frame entirely, depending on how you compose your shot. The charging case is another highlight. Clearly inspired by Apple's AirPods, the case allows you to charge the transmitters and receiver while they're stored. This is incredibly useful between gigs or while you're traveling. For instance, if you have a shoot an hour away, that's an extra hour of passive charging while you're on the road. The transmitters offer an impressive 10-hour battery life on a full charge, and the case can recharge them 3 more times. That means you get up to 40 hours per transmitter before the case itself needs to be recharged. As a solo shooter, I can rotate between the 2 transmitters and effectively get 80 hours of working time off of 1 full charge of the case. Charging each transmitter takes only about an hour and a half, which is perfectly reasonable for most workflows. Another thoughtful design element is how intuitive the power management is. You don't need to turn the units off. You just put them in the case and they start charging. When you take them out, they automatically turn on and automatically sync. Unless you accidentally hit the sync button and unpair the units, the system is virtually foolproof. It's very much a grab and go solution, which is ideal for solo content creators or anyone who doesn't want to have to babysit their gear. The system uses USB-C, which gives you a variety of charging options. You could use a DC brick, you could use USB-C ports on your car, or you could even use your laptop's USB-C ports that are built in. Versatility is another strength. You can connect the system to a camera or a smartphone and noise reduction can be toggled from the transmitters, the camera receiver, or smartphone receiver. As far as wireless range, it performed very well in my tests, and I can easily recommend this system in RF-dense environments like churches and conference halls. The included hardshell case was well designed and has space for all the accessories plus a few extras like the USB-C extenders I had to buy on Amazon. That kind of storage consideration shows Godox was thinking practically about real-world users. Lastly, we have to talk about value. At just $129, this is a 2-channel wireless lav system that's compact, thoughtfully designed, rugged, and loaded with accessories. Off the top of my head, I can't name a better value in this category. The Cube C is in a very competitive space, and it still holds its own. So, who is the Cube C for? If you already own a system like a Rode Wireless Go 2, I don't think the Cube C gives you enough to justify switching unless you really just need that smaller size. But if you're in the market for a reliable, good sounding, and highly portable microphone system at a fantastic price point, I can confidently recommend the Godox Cube C. I'll leave links in the description of this video if you want to pick one up. That does it for today's episode. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today. Do you have the Cube C system? Tell me about it in the comments below. Did you get it and maybe not like it? Tell us all about that in the comments below. Did you go another route? Tell us about that in the comments below. And if you're a fan of this channel, I humbly ask you to click the subscribe button below. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.